I'm tired, I'm tired. Huh. I'm tired of arguing, girl. Huh. I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. Huh. I'm tired of arguing, girl. Baby girl.
Did you sleep on the wrong side? Catching a bad vibe, and it's contagious. What's the latest? Speak your heart, don't bite your tongue. Don't get
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Rankin, Mon Valley, Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women. My name is Delores Dupree, and joining me is our first Vice President, Alecia Gibbs. We thank all of you who have joined us in the past, and we hope that you join us today. You can call in at 412-231-2288, and the number should appear on your screen. I see it's on your screen right now.
Good evening, I'm Alecia Gibbs, and thanks for tuning in again. Malcolm X is quoted as saying, "Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." Our topic today is college applications and financial aid. To discuss this topic, we have two special guests with us. We have Jordan Bigelow and Jordan Nash. We'd like them to tell us a little bit about themselves first, and we'll start alphabetically with Jordan Bigelow. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jordan?
Hi, I'm Jordan Bigelow. I'm from the Pittsburgh area, of course. I currently go to Kent State University. I study fashion design and fashion merchandising with a business minor. I'm a graduate of Woodland Hills High School 2016, and I'm currently going into my sophomore year at Kent State.
Thank you. And now, Jordan Nash, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, like she said, I'm Jordan Nash. I'm also from the Pittsburgh area. I attend Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am studying digital media and entrepreneurship. And I am also from the class of 2016, and I graduated from Winchester Thurston High School.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing some of yourselves with us this evening. Now, we know there is very little we can do without some higher education. So please present the information that you have planned for us this evening. And by the way, callers, we will give a ticket for our July 29th bowling party for the first caller. We'll discuss the bowling event later in the show. Okay, you can begin your presentation.
Okay, so we had a lot of things that we wanted to talk about in terms of applying to college, and I guess the best place to start would be starting early when you're in high school. And one of the main things you want to do is be very aware of when all the deadlines for everything is. You want to know when the deadline for the college application is. You want to know the deadline for the FAFSA, because the FAFSA deadline recently moved from, I believe, February all the way up to October, and a lot of financial aid works. A lot of, it depends on it being first come, first serve. And you want to have that paperwork in as soon as possible, because the faster you have it in, the more likely you are to receive financial aid from your institution.
As well as knowing the deadlines, a good way to know those deadlines and remember them is to have a planner so you're organized and you're not flustered trying to remember when an assignment is due or when your FAFSA is due or a certain scholarship essay is due. And also with applying for FAFSA, you also want to apply for local scholarships as well, like scholarships in your high school, church, local businesses. A lot of times, you know, places around Pittsburgh might have scholarships and you might only be the only one who applies. So it's always good to reach out and look to find money anywhere to pay for school. And a good way to do that is, you know, go to your guidance counselor office in high school, or some of your teachers. They might have places or know people who are offering scholarships for you to apply to, as well as good websites to find, you know, maybe even more national scholarships, which are usually bigger amounts of money.
Okay, thank you. Now, I remember way back, there was a lot of peer pressure amongst young people to not appear intelligent. And I think that went in both races. And There's a video that First Lady Michelle Obama did with Jay Farrow about encouraging students to go to college. And so can we play that video, that music video with First Lady Michelle Obama?
What are you gonna do after high school?
I don't know, just hang out, I guess.
Hang out?
Your future is hazy, trying to figure it out. Asking why I'm here, so you question in doubt. It's your choice, so voice it. Whole world your oyster. Can't be dropping the ball when your future's nothing to toy with. Telescope and stay focused. Make a mark and get noticed. Get the degree, thermostat, help me out, floaters. If you wanna fly jets, you should go to college. Reach high and cash checks, fill your head with knowledge. If you wanna watch pain, don't go to college. But for everything else, you should go to college. You can study engineering. They be building robots, build bridges, commute. You can get your walk on. Be a math major, hop a moon crater, be an astronaut, be up in the sky like a baby. Finances and science, but you still need a degree. Archaeology, astronomy, but not astrology. No.
Flotus on the track.
Southside Chicago, we all know we had to do overtime every night to make it tomorrow. And everyone could really make their dream true. Hey kid, listening in Michigan, that could be you.
But a dream is just a dream unless you go hard. Einstein put it in time, here's a flow chart. Naturally it won't happen magically, but you can change fantasy into reality so dramatically. If you wanna fight crime, you should go to college. If you wanna write rhymes, fill your head with knowledge. If you wanna stare at grass, don't go to college. But for everything else, you should go to college.
Better make room. We coming. We're applying. That paper is not getting thrown in the garbage. You go to college. I said college. I said college. I said college. You know they always fall the finger. College. Go.
So one thing I can say though, the previous administration, they did a lot as far as, you know, encouraging people to go to college and the financial aid. I mean, they were really into it. And I'm not sure about this new administration. Do any of you two have any ideas or any questions, or what do you think about this new administration when it comes to college and financial aid, anything?
Well, they're trying to take it away. There's been talks around that. I know a couple of my students or peers at Kent were talking about, like, supposedly the Pell Grant is supposed to be, you know, Trump is trying to take it away, and they're like, that's how a lot of us are going to school, which is true, because that financial aid from the government definitely does help and make a difference, you know, makes up for what people can't fully pay out of pocket. So I don't feel like there's as much encouragement to go to college like in the previous administration that we did have. So
on a similar front, especially because I attend an HBCU, we don't get the same amount of government funding that non-HBCUs do, because we're a private institution, not a public institution. And so, like, the students who do go there and do have government money, like, that money is highly important to us because that's how most of us are able to go there at all. And I know there's been a big push and a lot of talk with the new administration of how the new administration is potentially targeting HBCUs and, like, trying to purposely eliminate our funding to kind of shut down our schools, which is obviously, like, a major issue for anyone who's at those schools. And so I know he had a meeting with the HBCU presidents, like, earlier in this year, and the results of it did not go the way a lot of people were, like, at least hoping it would go. And so it's going to be interesting to watch as these next 4 years unfold what happens to HBCUs and college students in general, because with the new Secretary of Education, they're talking about, like, increasing the loan programs, meaning loans are going to be harder to get and a lot harder to pay off. And just generally, I feel like it's about to become a lot harder to finance college.
You mentioned the initials HBCU, and we know, or most of us know, that stands for Historically Black College or University. We just recently heard at one of our last meetings of NCNW that you used the term PWIs. Can you talk a little bit about what PWI stands for and the significance?
Well, PWI stands for predominantly white institution, meaning like a college or university that the students that attend there are predominantly white, and then, minorities as well. I'm not too sure of, the, relevance of it. And so my school is a PWI, so most of the students there are predominantly white, and then, we have other students as well who attend there. And my school's pretty big, so yeah.
I've heard some folks share the idea that HBCU campuses are not diverse, and that stems from the notion that black people themselves are not diverse, that we kind of think alike and we do everything the same. And so some students look to attending PWI specifically seeking diversity, despite the fact that most of the students there are white. It's understood that white people can be diverse, but the same should be recognized for the black community. How would you comment about those statements?
I think people's view on that depends on how they view diverse, and I think diversity has a lot more to do than just skin color. Like in one of Spelman's main buildings, the ceiling is covered in flags and they all hang down, and there's a flag, or it's said that there's a flag for like every single country that a student at Spelman's come from, like countries all over the world. And while everybody may have similar skin tones, we're not all the same person. We do not all think alike. We don't all look alike. We just have this commonality of being like black, but black is not synonymous with African American. Black is like a huge umbrella term. And so by saying HBCUs don't have diversity, you're just like limiting what diversity can even be, because diversity is like how you think, where you come from. It's not just what color you are.
Thank you.
Now, when we're talking about the applications and college applications, can you discuss the importance of students who wish to go to college, them volunteering or having a job? Does that make an emphasis on their application?
I definitely agree. And those places that you work at also could be references to that you need on your college application, because a lot of times they do ask for like letters of recommendation, and then they'll notice that you're in things like National Honor Society, which I was a part of, and that also helps you get more money in the long run, because they see like you have some, you have something that makes you different than the thousands of other kids who apply every semester. So a lot of times they look for things that make you different. So places like that you worked at, or volunteered at, or interned at, or like organizations or clubs that you're in definitely make a difference. And then some of those organizations or clubs that you're a part of might also have a collegiate chapter, so that also helps you get recognition by those, and then you also take a couple steps ahead of everyone else.
I would say I think as times are changing, colleges are moving to a really big emphasis on like picking well-rounded students to accept. So it's no longer just about like what your GPA was or how you did in school, but it's also about like what else can you bring to this college besides just being smart, because generally like everyone's being accepted is on the same like academic level, but what else do you bring? What makes you stand out? So if you have these internships in this community service, like it bring, like the other Jordan said, it brings something else to the table. And I think colleges are looking for now something else, because it's not just good enough to just be like, oh, I had good grades. Like what else can you do? What else can you bring? Like, do you care about the world? Like through all this community, like obviously you care about something besides just school. And I think that's very important. I think colleges are really looking for that. And so I think like having that on your application is like always helpful.
You mentioned collegiate chapters, and we know that the National Council of Negro Women has collegiate chapters, and our local Rankin, Mon Valley, Pittsburgh section is promoting a collegiate chapter. We have our third vice president, Ari Brazier, and she's going to continue to work on building our college chapter in September. We have a clip, and could you play the clip on Embrace the Movement, the collegiate NWC, the NCNW, sorry.
That's my chapter.
NCNW is
NCNW literally means the world to me. Only because I kind of had a hard transition as a freshman coming into Spelman because I came from such a small Catholic school in Brooklyn. So when I came here, I was kind of overwhelmed. I had a hard time making friends. So once I joined NCNW, which I had a long history with before coming to Spelman, I kind of just met like some of the best people in the world. So it was like, it was just warm. It was such a warm feeling every time, you know, I came to a meeting. People remembered my name, so I kind of just felt really at home when I met someone like my best friends in this organization.
NCNW definitely means family for me. Like, I had a really hard transition in college because I am so close to my family, and so it was like, how am I going to find a family away from home? And then I found NCNW, and now I have some of the closest friends that I've ever had in my life. And also NCNW means mental health for me because I learned how to work through, you know, the mental health issues that I've had and how to inspire people and help them to work through theirs as well. And it's really taught me how to be a good companion and a good friend throughout different struggles that people experience. So NCNW has really helped me grow as a person overall.
The term family has probably far exceeded issues by now, and I say that because that's probably the first thing that comes to mind for anybody who's describing NCNW's organization. There's no other organization that I can think of that is genuinely a safe space that welcomes you, that's really like your family outside of your family. And I don't know, I think that's really important when you're talking about the image of the Spelman chapter for NCNW. Like, NCNW is a safe haven. It's a place for you to be yourself, for you to be comfortable, for you to openly and freely express how you feel about different things, what you think about different things, propose initiatives for change and things like that.
I really got to give it to our president.
She's amazing, she's phenomenal, and I can't think of anybody better that could lead this organization in such a positive direction and in such an enthusiastic way.
At the end of the day, we support each other like no other.
NCNW is the equivalent of my child. As weird as that sounds, I feel like I've been able to watch it and nurture it as it grows, just bigger and bigger, so much so that I feel as though the organization has become a phenomenon on campus. I take great pride in knowing that there's individuality and imagination and leadership, and everyone in the family can be a leader.
NCNW means love,
confidence,
vulnerability,
personality,
supportive,
family, life.
I love NCNW.
NCNW is
quirky, colorful,
empowering,
leadership,
expression,
ambitious,
acceptance. 1, 2, 3.
NCNW!
Why
wouldn't you join?
What organization? Right.
What other one is there? None?
There is no other organization. NCNW. That's where it's at.
Okay, before we discuss that, though, we do have some calls waiting. So, first caller, can you please say who you are and where you're calling from?
Good evening. My name is Sharice Bowser from Philadelphia, and I am a graduate from the first HBCU, Cheney University. I'm calling in because I wanted to first congratulate the two young ladies that are there. Congratulations on Berkshire speaking. You sound wonderful and extremely articulate. I love the way that you've been answering your questions thus far. And my question is, what time would you recommend that high school graduates apply for colleges to ensure that they get their applications in as well as their scholarships and grants? What would you best recommend? As a teacher, I always try to tell my students to start at the beginning of their senior year going into the summer, to be prepared, and what do you recommend that I should continue to say?
Well, personally, whenever I was applying to colleges, my teachers stressed that like 11th grade, junior year is the most important year, because that's most oftentimes whenever you put out your transcripts, they're looking at your junior year and your junior year's grades, and like your senior year is there. They usually get that after you apply. So I would even, discuss if you have students who are like leaving 10th grade and going into their junior year, to like at least have that thought in their mind over the summer, like where would you want to go? What do you want to do? And even if you don't even know, that's okay. If you want to go to school for 4 years, if you want to go to a 2-year school, just have like some sort of path and foundation. But I definitely think that junior year of high school is the most important year to start reaching out to schools and finding out like what criteria do you need to have, like GPA-wise, and letters of recommendations, and joining clubs, and different things that they can have on their application, rather than they just graduated from said school. So by the time they're in their senior year, the only thing they have to do is apply for scholarships and sit back, relax, maybe retake their SATs and ACTs. That's another thing. So in junior year, that's about whenever you can take the ACT and the SAT. So even if they have to retake it, it's not like they're doing everything their their senior year. So, just spread it out, and then over the summer they can start studying at ACT prep, SAT prep, just doing their research. So I say junior year is really important.
I say junior year is, like she said, the best time to set the foundation in terms of actually applying to colleges. If you're applying to schools that are really essay heavy, like every school I applied to, I had to write an essay for it. I wrote all of my essays the summer before my senior year, so the minute I applied via Common App, the minute the Common App opened on August 1st, I could just put my essays in, fill out the rest of the application, have them sent off. So by October of my senior year, I had applied to all my colleges and was just waiting to hear back, so I had time to then apply for scholarships and relax and enjoy the rest of my senior year by the time it got towards the end of the year.
Thank you, caller from Philadelphia. I guess that helps when you put it on Facebook, and you can go into your computer, PCTV21.org. Are there any other questions?
No, that was wonderful. Thank you. I will take that back to my students.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Now, we have one more call on. Caller, can you say your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, this is Lewis from Point Breeze.
Hi, Lewis.
Hi. Hi. What is your question?
I have a grandson who's in 9th grade. Number one, do they still offer the PSAT test?
They don't necessarily ask for it, but it stands as a foundation to scale and gauge what the student will do, like how they'll do on the SAT test. So normally colleges don't look for it. They look for more so the SAT, but it's also good to take it so okay, if I'm doing extremely well in math, but I'm not doing too great on the writing portion, you know what to work on. So that's my answer for that.
The PSAT also opens you up to the ability to be a part of honor societies,
right.
And your PSAT scores and inclusion in those honor societies are scholarship opportunities. So I do think he should take it,
yeah.
Solely because it'll allow him to get more money. Although colleges don't look at the scores,
Mm-hmm.
It's like a stepping
stone.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's the perfect word.
I guess that test should be taken around the 9th grade. Is that correct?
9th and 10th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you start taking the SAT junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
call. And Alecia was trying to let me know that was the first caller from Philadelphia. You do get a ticket. So if you don't mind calling back and leaving your information, we can send you a ticket because you may be in Pittsburgh on July 29th. So please call back. You were our first caller and we loved your question. Okay, did you want to do another question? Yeah. Okay. Now, In the video, did you see anyone you knew, come to think of it? Because it was from Spelman.
That is actually my chapter, because I am a part of Spelman's NCNW chapter. So I just saw a lot of people I knew, so it was like a little heart fluttering moment, like, oh, that's my chapter. Like, I know those girls. And I think like the way they described our chapter was so accurate. Like, I joined NCNW second semester of my freshman year, and now I'm going to my sophomore year, and now I'm on the executive board. Like, NCNW, like our bonding events, like every single event we do, I get so excited to do it because they literally are like my family. Like, we have group chats, like we talk, everybody communicates. If you need anything, like you go to your NCNW family. Like, I have so much love for them, and everybody in NCNW has so much love for each other. And even though I wasn't there under R.A. Brazier's leadership, like the way they talk about how she led it and how she made it into it was like, I'm forever appreciative, because if she had not done what she had done, like it would not be what it is for me when I got there. So it made me so happy. I love that chapter.
Very good. Now, I heard some of the students there say that they had a little trouble adjusting. And so I know I went to a PWI, now that I know what that term is, but we had good advisors and counselors who helped us. Now, at your PWI, you went to a PWI, do you have like a Black Student Union or advisors and counselors that help you? And can you discuss that a little bit?
Yes, I would be glad to. Kent State, we call it BUS, Black Student Union, or Black United Students, I'm sorry. The team on there is excellent. Like our BUS, as they would say. My school, I didn't learn this until this year. We're the reason why Black History Month exists. With I think in the 1970s, the Black United Students, first it was a week, and then they got it to extend it to a month. And I didn't know that until I went to Kent, of course. And I know one of the professors, Professor Okanta, he was actually one of the first couple members of BUS during that time, and he still teaches there. He teaches the Black Experience course, which I'll be taking next fall. But I had a hard time transitioning to college, period, because, I'm really close with my mom and just being around her all the time. So I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm 2 hours away from home in Ohio. So I did this program called Cupida Transiciones, which is a program for African American, Native American, and Hispanic, Latino students to go to like 4 or 5 days before everyone else comes to campus, and it helps everyone transition into college life. So a lot of times we did different bonding activities and tried different foods from each other's cultures and did different, workshops over the course of the 4 days. And even during then, I was having a hard time transitioning. But I met a lot of good people and a lot of good leaders in the Black community at Kent, and I kind of have a bond with them now, and I have like a mentor, and me and him talk all the time. So I'm glad that my school had that program for us, because a lot of times when you think of PWI, you're like, oh, am I going to be the only one that looks like me here? And that's totally not the case at all. Like, the Black community at my school is very close together, but we're also open to everyone and everyone else's cultures, so we're not like closed off to everyone else. So it was also good knowing that I had like that support system there in that sense, and you're going to school with people who are expecting you to be there and expecting you to grow and to support you. So it was good having that.
Very good. That's good.
Great. And you talked a little bit about this, getting into college for some is, just the first step. The most important step is to get through college, remain in college, and to graduate. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that will be helpful for a student to recognize once they're in college in order to make sure that they get through and be successful at graduation?
I know, I guess like the one thing I would stress the most is like maintaining and watching out for your own mental health. Like, especially if you're away at college. Like, I go to college 11 hours away from where I live and like where my family is, so that was a very it was rocky, it was hard. Like, I felt like isolated, and just being able to check in with yourself and understand like when you need help and like when you need to reach out to people, so like you're making sure that you're good like on the mental side, because like it's really hard, like if you're stressed out when you're not sleeping, you're not eating because like there's just too much going on and you're overwhelmed, it's then really hard for you to focus on school. And if you can't focus on school, then you can't keep the grades, and obviously you need to keep the grades to be able to stay at the school. And so I think that would be like the main point I would stress, like always make sure your mental health is good. Always make sure like the people you're friends with, like checking on them, checking on all your people. And even if you go to different schools, like we're at school like 14 hours away from each other and still checked in on each other throughout the semester, because that's just really, really important for making sure you can maintain out of college.
To piggyback off of Jordan, I would definitely agree with the mental health aspect. You know, a lot of times you're paying to go to school, so therefore you're also paying for services at the school, and one of those services is oftentimes counseling, like through the psychology department, whatever your school has. And it's not a bad thing to go to those programs, because a lot of times once you get into the real world, you'll actually have to pay. And even if you feel okay, it's always nice to have that reassurance from someone else besides your family to know like everything is going okay, you're doing just fine, and you don't have any need to worry, like you're doing everything that you need to be doing. And another thing that comes along with making sure you stay in school, especially on a timely manner, is to make sure you always look at like what courses you have to have by each semester, so you're not missing a course, or you have some wiggle room just in case you might want to get a higher grade, you might want to turn that C into an A, So you need to always stay on track with, at my school they call it your GPS, so it's like I forget what it's called, something audit system. But, it's a GPS of literally your course of graduation. So whatever classes you need to have by 4th semester or 5th semester, or you should have had this class completed 2nd semester. That's a big part on, depending on if you're going to stay in school or not, and especially on how long it takes. Because a lot of times, you could sign up for a bunch of classes, like, oh, I want to take a kickboxing class, and I want to take a pottery class, but do you really need those classes? And you don't want to spend all your credit hours, which also costs money, on taking classes that you don't necessarily need to get your degree. But, I mean, if you have college credits from high school, then go ahead, take those kickboxing classes, because you don't always want to have school as, on your mind 24/7. You also want to have wiggle room to hang out with your friends, to take a break, go to a party, of course, here or there, but never too much. You don't want to get caught up into the party scene where you completely lose sight of why you're at school. So it's always good to make room for the things that are also important, even though they're not as important as school. So that definitely has a difference on whether or not you're there or you go back home.
And then to bounce back off of that, Jordan mentioned money, and I think checking in on your money, and if you go in with loans, actively trying throughout your 4 years to get more scholarships and more outside money, so by the time you graduate, you don't have to still take out the same amount of loans you started with. Or if you do start with scholarships, making sure like if your scholarship's not automatically renewable, making sure you're reapplying every year, or making sure you're keeping like the GPA requirements, so when that next year comes up, they're not going to touch your money because you kept the grades you needed, and you kept up with everything A, B, C, and D, everything you needed to keep that money coming back in, or just keeping the grades so then you can apply for outside scholarships, and just staying on top of your money, because like you see it happen all the time, students who go to school and then they have to come back because they simply can't pay for it. And that's a heartbreaking thing to watch happen, because money should never be a factor in people getting their education, but it's also something that people have to stay on top of because it happens.
Yeah. Right. Academic probation is real.
Oh, definitely.
Want to stay away from that.
And along those lines, parents can be very important as far as children and students rather going to college, maintaining their grades, and staying in college. And I want you to discuss how important parents are, but before you do that, there was an episode on Blackish one time. Did any of you look at Blackish, the series?
Yeah.
Did you see the episode when the daughter was going to college, but she didn't have a room?
Oh, yeah.
What I was surprised at is that she had depended on her parents to do that for her. Because I remember when we were, going to school, we did everything. All they did was signed it, and we filled it out, and we mailed it and all that stuff. So that was surprising to me. But there's a video of Michelle Obama again, my favorite first lady. But she was talking to some of the students about college. And I'd like to show that before you all discuss how important your parents were, because she was sort of like being a parent to those students that she was talking to. So can you please run that clip with the interview?
I've gotten a lot of great advice from teachers, mentors, professors throughout the year. So first of all, you gotta be open to taking some risks. and not being afraid to fail. Failure is the key to success. So when you get to college, you got to raise your hand. You have to be engaged. Don't be the kid thinking, oh, I shouldn't be here, and maybe I'm not smart enough, and maybe, no. You are more than capable of going to college, being successful, and going on and doing whatever you want in life. I sit here because I am you all. There is no difference between me and you. Working class kid, growing up on the south side of Chicago, growing up with doubts and fears, just like all of you all do. I know exactly how you all are feeling, and kids out there who are thinking, maybe I'm not ready, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I can't afford it. But what teachers and mentors have told me is that yes, you can and you must. So get in there and be bold with your intelligence. Raise your hand, get support when you need it. And know that we all got here because somebody helped us.
Because I was raised in Detroit in the Brewster Projects, and I am a proud graduate of Prairie View A&M University with an engineering degree. And then I became a talk show host.
But you have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
How
Exactly.
awesome is that?
Exactly.
Well, and also, Lonnie, you're smart as a whip, and it comes from that. Being a comedian takes analytical skill, ability, the ability to present yourself, to communicate effectively. You develop those skills in college and live in life.
And you know what? This is the thing. To all the students, we wanted to talk about how to pay for college, because that's the #1 reason why a lot of people don't want to go to college, because they think it's too expensive. And there's a special financial form that everyone can fill out, and we want you to explain that.
It's called FAFSA. And every senior should be filling it out. What a lot of students don't know is that there are billions of dollars of loans, grants, and scholarships out there just waiting for you, right? It's waiting for you, and every year millions of dollars get left on the table simply because kids don't fill out FAFSA. You can go to studentaid.gov to get all the details you need about filling out this information. But the bottom line is that high school is not enough in this day and age. That's just the real, right?
Absolutely.
High school is not enough. If you want to compete in an increasingly globalizing economy, you've got to have education and training and opportunity.
And you have no excuse because you have computers. I didn't have computers back. That's right. We had a World Wide Web.
Phones,
so y'all have no exactly. Google. All y'all got to do is type it in.
Well, I mean, you act like you were born during the times of like paper cups for phones or something.
No, it was rough.
Okay, so that was First Lady Michelle Obama being like a parent to those students that she was talking to. But we do have a call on. Before we discuss that, can we take that call? Caller, can you say your name and where you're calling from?
Sure. Good evening. I'm calling from the Philadelphia area, and I had a question along the same lines of keeping your GPA up and applying to college. I wanted to ask the two young ladies what advice they might give a student at the end of their junior year who may have decent grades at like a 3.25. Would you advise on them applying to the colleges that they're interested in early for early decision or early application, or potentially waiting until they get their first semester grades in during their senior year and possibly improving their GPA and what schools they can get accepted to?
Personally, I applied to Spelman early decision, so mine was binding. And so like I couldn't go to another school. If I got in, I had to go to Spelman, which worked for me because that's pretty much one of the only schools I applied to. But Spelman has another option called early notification. A lot of other colleges have early notification in which you apply earlier and you find out earlier, but it's not binding. And the thing that comes with that, if you apply early and you don't get in at that point, you get deferred into regular admission. So it gives you, and you typically have to send in more material. So I would suggest with your GPA or with the 3.25, which is typically above the 3.0 mark, which is a good GPA, that applying early, because it never hurts to apply early, and it gives you the chance that if you don't get in that period, you just get deferred to the last deadline, which gives you the chance to move them. Because if you wait until the last minute to apply, there is no time to send additional materials. There is no time to get your GPA up. So I would suggest apply early, and then if you don't get in at that point, send additional materials and kind of like advocate for yourself to then get admitted on the later deadline.
First, I would definitely check, depending on if you know, what school you're trying to apply to, or, you know, the GPA requirements to, you know, get in. The GPA requirements to usually get into a school, and then if you want money from a school, it usually, you know, differ. Like, you need a higher one, like for a merit-based scholarship. So I would definitely research to figure out what GPA requirements that you have to meet in order to get what you want. If you want to get into the school, research that. If you want to get money from the school, also research that. So then look at your GPA and then figure out, do I want to raise my 325 up to get more money, or is that getting me as much money that I need, or getting me to where I want to be? And if you decide that you want to raise your GPA, there's no harm in, you know, also waiting that next semester to get your grades up, because they will look at your transcript. They'll see everything on your transcript, every test you've taken, SAT, state standardized test, they'll see everything. And if they see that you took that same test, or you took that class again, or this semester you had a B in this class and now you got a 99.8 in the next semester, they'll see that you're trying and then that you're making improvement. So, and also, some schools also have rolling admission. What that means is that they'll have deadlines, several deadlines to apply for each, you know, round of applicants throughout the year, throughout the semester, and then they have like a certain cutoff date where they stop taking applicants altogether, and that's usually like in the spring, depending on which school you want to go to, because, you know, they don't want to accept people too late. So you should also research when the deadline to apply for that school is. So if it's like in the late spring, there's probably no harm in applying, you know, to that school, you know, after the first semester, which is usually like in the wintertime. But that all depends on whatever school you're trying to apply to. Like Jordan said, some schools have, you know, the early, what is it, the?
Decision and notification.
Yeah, the early decision and notification. Personally, my school, it was a rolling admission, and it cut off in like May 25th. So I had all the way up until May 25th to apply. Me, I applied in like, I think, October, found out November if I got in, and found out, you know, all the additional stuff like financial aid and scholarships, you know, further on, like in December. So the earlier to do it, the best, you know, what's early is best, of course. So you have more wiggle room, and then you can also decide, maybe I don't want to go there anymore, so I don't want to send a deposit in saying I'm enrolled, because that's also like a lot of money. So that's also a thing to take into account of.
Especially because oftentimes money becomes first come, first serve. The first people to apply and get there faster than are the first people who get financial aid, or the first people who get scholarships. Especially if you're a rolling school, it just goes out like this one's in, they have the scores in, like. So earlier is always better, but if you can afford to wait, then yeah, obviously go ahead and wait.
And, you know, whatever feels comfortable for you. If you personally do not feel comfortable with having a 3.25 GPA, then achieve and strive to get higher if that's what you want to do. If you're okay, and if that's getting you into college, then there's no shame in applying. As well as the scholarship thing, my school personally, you know, the deadline to apply was in May, but the deadline to apply without having to write essays and, you know, sending in cover letters and all that was like in January, and that's a gap. So you also want to take into account when a cutoff deadline for like merit-based scholarships is, before you know, wait till the next semester to apply to whatever school you want to apply to.
Thank you, caller. Are there any other questions?
No, thank you. Both answers were very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling.
Have a great day.
Okay, so we talked about parents and how important the parents are. Can each of you talk about your parents and how they were influential in either you attending college, which college you attended, how they assisted with your college application or financial aid?
Yes. So both of my parents attended college at some point. My mom, she went to college like 3 times. So she, you know, she also went to school while I was, you know, growing up. So I would also see her going to class and doing her homework, and I'd be like, oh, what's that? So that also had like a heavy influence on what I wanted to, you know, do after high school. And like my dad, him being in school, it's like, and my mom, so it's like a given, like you're going to college. And then like my grandparents also like saying like, you know, we want you to have things that we didn't have and opportunities that we didn't have growing up, so you're going to college. So my mom, you know, she would always educate me on financial aid and scholarships, and, you know, getting good grades was always a given in my household and, you know, in my family environment. So that was like no issue there. But I didn't really always know everything, and my mom, she knew everything. So she would, you know, teach me what she knew, like, you know, did. She's like, oh, I applied for FAFSA all my life, going to school, yada, yada, yada. So I had some ropes there, and then she didn't really have to help me too much because she's, you know, she taught me well enough and just like let me have the reins. And, you know, I applied for scholarships and financial aid myself, and all she had to do was sign off. And same goes for my dad. Like, he just had to give me, you know, the information or whatever. So I did a lot of that on my own, but I only was able to do it on my own because my mom and all the other people in my family and my dad and stuff, they helped me out and gave me the stepping stones, so I was able to do it on my own, and then can also help others, like I'm doing today, to do it so they don't have any issues there. Because it is tricky. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of patience, a lot of terms I never even heard of. I still don't know. That's why we have the internet. That's why we have our parents and guardians and people in our life who, you know, went through the same process we're going through.
I had a similar situation. My mom was in school once I was already born, so I grew up seeing my mom in college, and I also have siblings who are older than me. And so I got to like kind of get a sneak preview of it, but my mom is also a teacher. And so I spent most of my life and most of my time, like if I wasn't at my school, I was at her school. And so like my mom's big saying is like, it takes a village to raise a child. And so like I was raised with a very like village mentality. So anything that my mom didn't know, she knew somebody who knew it. So if she couldn't answer a question, she could tell me 15 other people who could give my answer. So when it got time to do my college process, it was a lot kind of like, hey, baby bird, like push you out of the nest, like you have to do it all by yourself. But like she was always there if I had any questions. But in terms of like applying and doing my financial aid, like Jordan was doing that paperwork and she was just signing off on it. But she made sure to give me like as many resources as possible to make sure that when I got to the time to do it by myself, like I could do it. And then when it came to calling my school, because I had to call my school a lot to get like the answers I needed. Like I'd be like, Mom, can you just call the financial aid office? Like I'm tired of calling. And she'd be like, no, you're an adult. Like you need to call yourself because in a couple of months you're going to be down there by yourself, and I can't come run to your rescue when you need something figured out. You're going to have to learn to do everything on your own.
Sounds like you two both had supportive parents.
Thank you.
Yes,
very much so.
Oh, okay. Did you two want to say anything more before we start closing up? And
Okay, we talk a lot about financial aid and scholarships. Well, basically just scholarships. There's always a way to pay for college, and one of those other ways are loans. You know, we kind of mentioned it here or there. But a lot of people at times get turned away because they're like, oh, I got to take out a loan for this amount of money, and I just way too much. But a loan is a loan. You know, you don't always have to pay it the whole amount each month. You know, you can pay it gradually over time. And first of all, that shouldn't even be your worry. You know, that's just getting you into college. Like the college experience and everything that you'll learn rewards you tenfold afterwards. So a lot of times with loans, people don't know the difference of them. And you can either get a direct subsidized loan or you can get a direct unsubsidized loan. And there's a great difference between those two. With a direct subsidized loan, that's oftentimes a loan where the interest is paid while you're in college. So say I take out a loan for, I guess, my 4 years of me being at school, and there's an interest rate of this amount. And the government will cover that interest rate until I graduate, and then, you know, I guess I got to prove that I graduated so they can, you know, cut the interest off, unfortunately. So then now I'm paying the interest rate, you know, other than the government doing it. But with an unsubsidized loan, that means the interest rate starts immediately after you take it out. So if you take it out June 1st, the interest rate is going to be on your July 1st payment. And that's a lot. Like, I didn't really understand that. I'm like, what's the difference? And I would always get the two confused. So, you know, that's a way to help people understand it better.
And I also think an important thing to know with loans, there was a big debate on whether or not I was going to take them out, but my parents wouldn't get approved for loans. And the thing with the loans is always have, even if you're like, oh, I'm not going to get approved for loans, and my parents are like, oh, no, we're not going to approve, always have them apply, because if they get denied loans, it not only opens up the amount that you, the student, can take out in loans without, because it's like a personal loan, and there are parent plus loans, and every year, the amount that you can take out as a personal loan goes up, and your parent plus goes down. But you always typically have to have a parent plus as a co-signer on the loan, because the government won't just give loans to students on their own. But if your parents apply for the parent plus and get denied, it allows you to take out more, and it also allows you to have leverage and kind of like a bartering tool with your school itself for more financial. So you going like, look, I really want to go to this school, this is my dream, but I got denied the parent plus, I'm like, I can't take out this full loan, help. And the school will typically move around some pieces if there's money, and then give you more aid that isn't loans or that's scholarships, because they see that like you can't get this amount of loans, so let's see what else the school can do to help you out.
Another thing is a way to save money is also, there's no shame in attending a community college. That's still a higher education, whether you decide to stay for the full 4 years, 2 years, or however long your program is, or if you decide to transfer by taking like your core classes that you would be taking at your university. Because a lot of times those core classes like math and science and stuff, that's important, but it's not related to our degree that we're achieving. You have to pay for those out of pocket, and a lot of times it's cheaper just to take it at a community college in your area, and then see, before you even take the class, see if the class is transferring, the credits transfer, because there's no point in taking a class for no reason, because that's more money. But there's no problem, there's no issue with doing that or taking classes over the summer to save you money in the fall and spring semesters. So a lot of times students even times when students have a rough transition in college, they're encouraged to go to a community college for a year just so they can get the ropes of going to class on a time schedule that's not based on periods like in high school. And then sometimes they'll transition into a 4-year university, or they might stay. So there's no issue in doing that. Like I said, it saves money and also gets you adjusted to it. I personally didn't do that, but I know a lot of friends who have, and they said that helped them transfer into a school that they wanted to go to, maybe straight out of high school, but the financial situation wasn't always the best, and they were trying to save money and cut costs anyway, and they decided to just go to a community college to get those core classes out the way. So there's no issue in doing that. Another thing is, the scholarship search does not stop once you get into the college and you're enrolled and you're taking classes there. You still apply for scholarships. There's also tons of scholarships for people who are sophomores or juniors, even seniors, even for people who graduated from a certain school.
Grad school.
Yeah, like in grad school, you still need that money if if you want to pursue grad school. Like me, the scholarships never stop. They're always helpful. You always can use extra money. Whether it's for buying books or paying for tuition or room and board, or, just making sure you're set for the next semester. Say you want to study abroad, has to get paid for somehow. It's always best to use somebody else's money to pay,
Exactly.
But, the scholarship search does not stop, and usually most times you can go to your school for those scholarships after your freshman year, because they are out there. And not a lot of people, I feel like not a lot of people apply for them because they figure like, oh, I did all that stuff in high school. I'm here now. I'm paid for the first year. You got to keep paying, or they're going to be knocking at your door when you get older. And you don't want that. So do not stop looking for scholarships after you're in the school.
And then on that same token, making sure you build connections with the people. Like, I am close with the people who work in my school's admissions office, along with in the financial aid office. They know me by name, they know my face, which means when scholarships come across the table, or when financial aid comes across the table, like, they're like, oh, I was just talking to Jordan last week, like, I know she needs extra money, the scholarship just came across my table, like, I got a scholarship in the beginning of the school year, the head of the admissions office emailed me and was like, hey, I remembered you, I remember your story, I think you would work really well for this scholarship, and that was an extra couple $1,000s paid off my bill because she remembered my face and she remembered my name and remembered my story because I made the time to build a connection with them. And that's pivotal in your process of matriculating, is building connections with those people who can make your life 10 times easier.
Oh, another thing. We're talking about money. You also got to save money. So wherever you can save money, you should do it. you know, most students have graduation parties. I always get those graduation cards with like a little $250 from your grandma or something. So, you know, that's, you know, that money, they're giving you that money for a reason, to pay for books or whatever. But, you know, you also got to go shopping because, you know, you're going to be on your own most times. Your mom's not going to be there. So it's always best to cut costs. And there's no shame in my game called couponing, you know. Coupon for your deodorant, your laundry detergent, all that good stuff, so you save money, because it does help. That's what I did. And you know, there was times where I'm like, oh, I have to buy art supplies, and I only got $20 in my account, so I don't want to be spending it on laundry detergent when I have to buy this stuff for my portfolio. So it's always to make sure you have everything you need in those situations where you might not be able to afford what you need because you have to buy stuff for school, or you just can't, or you got to eat. So always be safe with your money and always be smart with your money. And, you know, always reach out, you know, no shame in reaching out to your grandma for $20 here and there. Yeah, so.
Wow, so you all have given us so much information, and I hope those in the listening audience have listened and maybe take notes and, you know, put down the websites that we talked about and the information that we talked about. And are there any closing remarks before we go, because we don't have that much time? I'd like to thank you both for coming, and hope you can continue to come to the meetings and maybe come on this show again to update people on what's going on. And before we close out though, can we show the bowling flyer? Because we do have that bowling party that first caller got the ticket for. So I hope she called back and left her name and number so that we can get back in touch with her. But it's going to be July 29th, and we hope to see you all if you're in town. July 29th from 7 to 9 p.m. and it's going to be at the new Great Valley bowling lanes. And you can come and have fun with us and maybe join and let us know. The number to call is 412-953-9583. And thank you so much for listening and watching. And if you have any other questions about what the Jordans have talked about today, you can still call 412-953-9583, and we'll try to get in touch with them, and we'll try to give you the information that you need. Thank you again. Have a good day.
Did you sleep on the wrong side? Catching a bad vibe, and it's contagious. What's the latest? Speak your heart, don't bite your tongue. Don't